Hi everyone! This week you'll be completing your first milestone assignment towards your final project. This week you're being asked to consider how social practices broadly are affected by diversity. So at this point in your project, you're not going to be thinking specifically of the problem that you want to solve. We'll talk more about that next week. But at this point, you want to be thinking very broadly about how have social practices been affected by diversity? By social practice, we mean how people think and behave. So how have problems in diversity in modern society affected how we think and behave towards each other, how we interact, where we live, where we work, what we say and believe, considering recent events, how we vote. So you want to think about this on a very general level of how is diversity affecting how we think and act in the modern world. You also want to think about how we can understand diversity through the four lenses. And last week you took a quiz on the four lenses, so they should be fresh in your mind, but to remind you, they are history, humanities, natural science, and social science. So you want to make sure that you address each of the four areas and that you give a specific example of how each of the areas helps us to understand diversity. So not how diversity is impacting those areas, but you want to explain how we can use those four lenses to better understand diversity in the modern world. You'll also be thinking about how problems in diversity have changed the world. And again, you want to think about some specific examples. Try to come up with 2 or 3 social movements, diversity movements, that have changed how we think and act. And there have been quite a few just in the past 50 years. So, if you go back just to, the 1950s, 1960s, and start from there, there are even some that, within the last 10 years. So again, thinking about how social movements to promote diversity and to solve problems in diversity have changed our world. Finally, you're going to talk about how diversity impacts your area of study. So if you're a nurse, or if you're studying math, if you're in the military, if you are trying to think of a restaurant manager, how do you encounter diversity in your field? What are the major problems with diversity in your field? Are there groups that are underrepresented? Are there groups that you feel are not getting the right care or are not being reached by your group? I know we've got at least a couple of people in marketing, so you could talk about, how marketing represents different groups. So there's lots of ways to tackle this. This is about a 2 to 3 page paper, double-spaced. And again, at this point, we are not looking specifically at the problem you want to solve. At this point, we want to think very, very broadly about diversity in our modern world, how it affects us, how it affects our professions, how it affects how we behave every day, on a day-to-day basis. If you have any questions about what anything in the assignment means, please let me know. And again, I know I'm going to be a broken record about this throughout the term, but it is absolutely essential that you address all the parts of the question. This question has 4 parts. Please make sure that you look at the rubric for the assignment, because that's what I will be using to grade your assignments on. And if you don't address one of the areas, then I can't give you any points for it. So it is really important that you go back through your assignment after you've written it and compare it to the rubric and make sure you've ticked off all 4 boxes. And again, if you have any questions about what anything means, any concerns, please let me know, well in advance of when the assignment is due on Sunday. If you can shoot me an email, preferably by no later than Friday afternoon. That gives me a chance to see your question and correspond with you and make sure that you've gotten an answer that helps you. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to reading your assignments.